Welcome to Verbal Pick Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday people. We have a special guest joining us today, and that is Kyra Shishkin. Kyra Shishkin, welcome to the show.
Hey Vince, thank you for having me. It's actually Kira, but everybody always whispers my name.
Right. I apologize. Yeah, Kira Shishkin. Now, now let me set this up real quick for the listening audience. Right. So let's say, for instance, you're having a relationship problem or a work problem, or you're trying to find a religion, or say have you, and you go to this person and they give you some information, and you go to this person, they give you information, and you go and you get bombarded with so much information to where you got to overload and you're kind of confused, right? Well, today I want to have Kira walk you through definitions and signs of information overload, right? Because this is something that's beneficial and that can help you and that will help you throughout your life, because stress, one, if it leads to stress, causes instability within yourself, disease, distress. And so we want to make this as a wellness session on Verbal Pick Radio to help you, the listening audience. Kira, how you feeling today?
Yeah, that that resonates a ton, Vince, and I'm glad again that you invited me to join you. This is an important topic. This topic of information overload is something that we all experience in different ways and yet struggle sometimes to describe. As you kind of put it, Vince, very eloquently, you go to one place for information and somebody else tells you more, and you're constantly bombarded with advice, content, and solicitations. And so you asked me, what are the signs of information overload? What are the signals? Well, we don't have to look very far to identify them. If you look online, if you look to social media, look anywhere where there are information ecosystems, whether that's Facebook, TikTok, whether that's just going online on a website, there's a constant bombardment of information. People want you to click here. People want you to read this. They want you to play this game. They want you to watch this podcast. They want you to hear this audio, watch this video. There's a constant solicitation of come look at me, come pay attention to this. And over the last couple of years, it's really proliferated and multiplied to a place where there's so much content being thrown at us every moment of our day that it's causing a lot of stress. It's causing a lot of paralysis, even in people. And people saying, you know what, I don't want to touch this anymore. This is too much. It's too much. So we try to help with one particular aspect of that, which is as it concerns the news, which is very critical and important for folks to know and understand the world they inhabit. And we try to give them the compass for the sea of information overload as it concerns news media specifically.
Okay. Now you are the founder of Informed.
That's right.
And so how do you weave through all of the verbiage in the garbage to focus on what's really important that can be beneficial to whatever that person may need to develop themselves?
That's right. I mean, that is our primary and most important task is actually taking you out of those toxic cycles of information overload. And so what we do is we essentially read all the news for you so that you don't have to go through those pains. Now, nothing prohibits you from reading the news if you'd like, but we give you a toolbox to get the sort of the essentials without necessarily spending hours and hours filtering it yourself, going through an article and saying, hey, is this a sponsorship or is this a fact? Is this an advertisement or is this a piece of bias? Or what here is truth and what here is fiction that I'm looking to be convinced of? That sort of constant filtering, we do that for you. And so
Mhm.
we use a technology and a human team, a professional editorial team. We combine both to amplify their strength and take care of the shortcomings of each. And so we think of our service as a news concierge service, and it's run entirely over SMS. So you actually just text our number. You text "Hey" to 844-406 info, which is 4636. You text our line and you just say "Hey," and then we take it kind of from there to loop you into our service, which is all about giving you the insight without giving you the noise. Now, you earlier about how do we do that? Again, we combine technology with humans to read all the news of the world out there on the internet at any given time of the day. We use a mix of technology that scrapes information from the web, that essentially simulates reading. We assess its impact on the human condition. So, how important is it? And how much is it moving the market? How much is it changing the human condition? We prioritize that level of significance, and then we summarize in a context rich way, where we don't just give you the headline, we give you actually the whole content of the article or of the topic or the issue in just a few bullet points. And we text that to you every morning so that when you begin your day, whether you're heading to work or you're in the family, you know the most and you know it the soonest. It's almost like a secret weapon in your pocket.
Wow, that is very important. Now, is this globally?
We have a sort of a kind of a half answer. We are definitely focused on the United States. That
Okay.
is our most important market, our most important sort of area. We also service Canada,
Mm.
um, but I would say our news coverage is um, it's globally focused, but with an American priority, right? So
Okay.
it's really for American citizens, folks in the United States that are looking to be global citizens. But we cover things that go well beyond just the US. So we talk about conflict in the Middle East, we
Right.
talk about Europe, things that really affect the global human condition. Tariffs also have been a very global phenomenon, not just a US concept. To sum it up, I would say we service global citizens that just happen to be based in the US.
I mean, this is huge because the term fake news has been put out there, and especially when dealing with a presidential election, this service and dealing with voters can get the facts and what is real and weed through the fake news of say a bot might put out there to try to sway voters to go this way. They can check and say, well, did this incident actually happen? Is this true? Did that? I mean, that is a game changer.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. The amount of misinformation and the amount of kind of swaying that has been happening, and it's almost as old as time. But folks are constantly vying for each other's attention and to convince each other of their worldviews, and we see that in politics, obviously, more than anything. And so that's where we think of our work as really foundational, because we give people the common fact base across the issues. We don't give them any editorial or analytical or biased perspective. We limit ourselves to just saying what, where, and when. If something happened, let's say on a reporting level, what exactly happened, where did it happen, and some context surrounding it. We don't provide the color around is this blue or is this red, or how you should think about an issue. We give you the tools to form your own opinion and to have a shared fact base upon which people can build different opinions, because people have different worldviews. That's fine. We, take care of the foundational fact base piece.
Well, I mean, and the reason why I'm interested is because I've known stories that didn't come out or wasn't reported correctly because of the corporate interest or the monies behind it who wanted to create or shape the narrative, and people really want just authentic information to where let them decide. Let them use their critical thinking. Uh, don't say, well, we don't want to put this out because it might hurt this brand or whatnot. You're saying you specifically just give the information.
Totally. I really think of it as the dignity of being informed. I feel like has been robbed of people and of entire generations as media in a traditional sense became more and more um, driven by advertisement and more driven by sponsorships that are often contrarian to the interests of the actual readers. We've kind of lost the game a little bit. We lost the ball.
Right.
And what you're doing with informed, it's storing the dignity for folks to be informed without being influenced.
Yeah, I see it every day, especially among young people uh, walking around like zombies simply because they're not properly informed as it was at one period in time where you had news information that you can trust or trustworthy news. That's you rarely see that. Now, I'd like to know what made you get involved in such a topic, subject, and starting informed and inform in the love of information towards mankind.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thank you for that question because it lets me tell you a bit more about my personal story and angle into here. And I am an immigrant to the US, but I am born and raised across different conflicts. So I'm originally from Ukraine, from Kiev, where you've seen over the last decade or so, even since 2013, a real raft in between Russia Ukraine narratives around what is truth, what is fiction, and a lot of propaganda and a lot of misinformation that I've been exposed to earlier in my life, and just seeing this constant barrage of propaganda and misinformation has really early on in my life just shown me the importance of having your own facts, having the dignity of building your own opinion versus just taking an opinion from the streets, taking it from other people, taking it secondhand. So that was kind of exposing me to the need to be informed without being influenced. And then I actually spent my second decade of my life in Israel, where, as you know, there's also many layers and dimensions of conflict and perspectives that come with that.
Right.
And so seeing the conflict of Israel with the West Bank, Israel with Gaza, Israel against all the other Arab states, Israel versus, everybody in the world, essentially. So many different perspectives, even within Israel itself, has almost exploded my understanding and appreciation of how important it is to have your own information, have your own fact base, and build your opinions independently of sort of the word on the street, so to speak.
Y-
And then coming in my third decade to the US, I've seen here a very different kind of um, perspective conflict, where here it's very internal. But sometimes I feel like, America's in a constant civil war. Even way before 2016, there is just a constant struggle between perspectives. Everyone's, militant almost in their expression of their perspective and their polarization. I think polarization in the US borders on a kind of civil war, a kind of soft civil war.
right.
And that's just a third conflict that's completely, instated and reinforced in me this vision, this recognition that, if I can give people the facts, if I can give them just that, and give them the confidence and the foundation to build their own opinions, at least we can get everybody to talk about the same fact base. So at least we have productive disagreements that aren't based off completely different fact bases that aren't connected, and we are not even talking the same language.
Yeah, hell, I know, definitely. As being a Moor or a black person or a African American within America, just the discussion of history is a hard topic, and I understand the militancy because if you're not, people will bombard you over here. You get ran over. You have to stand your ground, or else you won't have no ground to stand on. So I definitely understand the need for that. But now, and this is not a little bit off topic, but I just want your thoughts on wokeism. Is that a terminology that should be used in dealing with news, or I'm saying this because by definition, being awoke and learning, meaning you have tools to use and you're studying, you're reading. If you're not awoke, you sleep, and you're not effective in life being sleep. So I know you heard that term a lot, and coming from the different continent, how do you view wokeism?
Yeah, yeah, I heard you talk about it on your show earlier. So I know you're very interested in that sort of term. To me, I feel like the term has come about many years ago. I want to say at least 5 or 6, where that's where it was first introduced, and it has really evolved or devolved over time to become so ambiguous and so politically charged that it's just hard to almost say what wokeism is about today. When you ask one person, they have one association with that word, and you ask somebody else, they have a different association. Sometimes it's a political association, sometimes it's just cultural. To me, I think the good parts of woke and the sort of the positive elements of it are just around being aware,
Right.
being aware of the habit, being aware of how you show up in that world. And so I think sometimes, discussing what the term means to you is maybe more helpful than just, dropping the term on its own. If we're talking about being aware of the world, being aware of the history and the issues that haunt us in this culture, in this society to this day, if it comes if it comes in the meaning of being aware of how you show up that honors culture, that honors progress, that honors history, then of course it's an amazing thing to um, to be part of, and I would encourage anyone to be that aware. I just think sometimes the word and like the term itself has also been claimed by certain more aggressive, parts of culture where woke as a word became both shunned and aggressively promoted at different times of the last couple of years. And it's almost like, to be honest, I don't even know what woke means anymore. But
Right.
if I get about the awareness and being mindful, then I'm all for it.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent. Um, Now, before we conclude, um, can you let the audience know once again how to uh, get uh, informed and get the text message to check on the latest news cycle? Now, do they ask you a specific question and then they get the answer, or is it something is just ongoing that they can listen to throughout the day?
It's a great question. Both are possible and both are welcome. So I'll mention a number and how to get in touch very shortly. But as you text our number, and our number is a toll-free number, meaning that it's always free to you to text, and it's also a highly regulated space, toll-free numbers. So we take privacy and spamming very seriously. Um, so you're always very safe texting us. um, Once you text our number, you get looped into our sort of news concierge service, which means that every morning of every weekday, we send you an executive briefing of things as if you are the president, of things you need to know to be an informed citizen. Now, if you have questions or if you want to have a conversation, because we're dealing with an SMS kind of relationship, you can literally just text us. And it's always a human on the other side on my team that wants to, talk to you and service you and make sure that your information concierge experience is complete. If you have a follow-up question or if there's anything you're wondering about or you want to get more information, you can easily text us in and it's a conversation. It's not just a one way communication, it's a dialogue. And so on the days that you have a question, on days that you want to have more insight, you could always just text us back. And then it's just like talking to a friend, except your friend is a trustworthy news concierge that specializes in getting you the information you need to form your own opinions.
Excellent. You know, within different communities, it's very important to check news cycles so you can be aware of what's going on in the world, and also you can make right decisions pertaining to your life. Now, last question, and I'm just throwing this out here though. Uh, does it deal with any type of stocks or commodities or things of that nature?
Not in a timely way
Okay.
that you would sort of get quick advice on, like, hey, trade this, trade that.
Right.
But we do have a coverage across not just politics, not just culture, not just climate, but also economics and business and things you need to know, because the markets affect us just as much as anything else. So we do cover business and economic topics as well. For example, like this morning, we're tracking the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, because it was updated this morning. So we want to make sure our readers are the first to know. We also have noted that Coinbase, which is a large crypto exchange, is set to join the S&P 500 starting on Monday, and so we also want to make sure that they're actually replacing Discover. So it's a real interesting move because it's a large, landmark crypto exchange replacing what is a legacy credit card company. And so we just thought that was, our editors and our technology thought that was pretty momentous. And so we always flag things like that. And so if you were, for example, making investments, you would know sooner than most that that was happening. And maybe you would look into doing a pre-IPO, a pre-relisting bet on Coinbase, which has actually grown 24% since the announcement.
Wow. So you are absolutely right. It's like having your personal world brief as you sit at your coffee table with your coffee and your Danish or whatnot pastries, and I'd say on the level or might be better than the level of a Wall Street Journal. Get informed, start your day, brother Shishkin. I appreciate your time. Anything you'd like to add before we conclude?
It's been delightful being here, and thank you for having me, Vince. If for any folks that are interested out there and want to join our revolution of this new news media that is minimalist news media, you can just text A to 844 406 4636.
And just text A.
Hey.
There you go. There you go. I appreciate you, brother Shishkin. And
Thank you.
yes, sir. And Pick Radio, we're out. Now, will you in the future take advertisement?
Never that. That is
Yeah.
our whole mission is to be better in every way, from traditional news media, which has just been sold and corrupted by advertisement.
I know.
Because the advertisement was just the beginning, but once they started optimizing for advertisers, because that became their chief revenue source, all the little things that make your experience, that define your experience, have started optimizing for advertisement. Meaning, instead of just giving you the facts and letting you go, they would say, we want to hold you here for as long as possible and have you read and click and look at our platform for as long as possible. Now, that is not an incentive that's aligned to the reader. The reader wants to get the news and leave, because the reader needs to do many other things in their life. They got to be a father, they got to be a friend, they got to be a co-worker. There's so many other roles apart from just reading the news nonstop. But the advertising driven media companies have created all these ways to keep you engaged, keep you distracted, uh, reading their stuff. I mean, I feel like the New York Times is a good one to pick on because they have a whole ecosystem. Once you read an article, they show you one more article. Once you finish that, they show you a puzzle. Once you finish that, they show you a crossword. Once you finish that, they show you, hey, you sign up for the newsletter. And then there's a paywall. then there's this, and then there's that, and there's an advertisement every side of the way. We wanted to do completely different from that. We want to do much better than that because users deserve better, and we're in an age where we can actually have nice things without sacrificing our attention. So we want to just give that dignity, give that attention back to our readers. So never advertisements, never sponsorships, none of that noise.
Excellent. Okay. Recording, you're gonna run it through.